Now, let's go back to our top story, that IAEA report on Iran and the possible fallout. The UN Security Council's already adopted 4 sets of sanctions against Iran. A reminder that in 2006, it demanded that the country halt its uranium enrichment activities. Now, when Iran failed to do that, the Security Council adopted Resolution 1737. It called on countries to stop importing and exporting nuclear material and equipment to Iran. Now, just a few months later, as you can see here, in 2007, the Council passed Resolution 1747, banning all weapons exports from Iran and freezing the assets of people involved in its nuclear program. By 2008, there was Resolution 1803 in place, demanding that the nation's banks come under increased vigilance and called on countries to inspect cargo coming from Iran. The 4th round of sanctions came in 2010. Resolution 1929 expanded the weapons ban and the financial restrictions on certain Iranian companies and individuals. All right, I'm joined now from London by Justin Dargin. He's a nuclear energy analyst, and I want to move away from the sanctions with you, Mr. Dargin, and talk instead about the IAEA report itself and ask you how convincing you found the case that it made against Iran.
Well, I think first of all, if we look at the IAEA, it's a very credible organization. So if we go back to 2003, when the US and UK were on the bandwagon and alleging that Iraq was restarting its nuclear weapons program, the IAEA was much more circumspect. So as a result, the IAEA has a lot of international credibility and is not seen as some type of a tool for, let's say, Western unilateralism. But at the same time, if we look closely at the report, we can see that it's actually quite careful in its language. It's not saying that Iran has directly started a nuclear weapons program, but what it has stated is that actually Iranian efforts are geared towards producing technology which could be used for the development of nuclear technology. Now, this is a distinction, I think, which is a bit important. So it hasn't stated unequivocally that Iran is moving forward with the nuclear weapons program, but it's saying that it is developing the capability which could be used for that later on. So I think that it is credible, and I think that it will bring increasing pressure on Iran.
But what do you make of the fact that the IAEA has included 5 points of investigation that it hadn't in the past, if the reports in the international press are correct, that it is in much more detail than previous reports on Iran, that it has gone to some lengths to explain that this is the result of intelligence gathered from more than 10 countries?
Yes, well, I mean, I think that it's important because the IAEA has been more or less locked out of Iran and has not been able to continue its mandate. So as a result, it really did have to rely upon, presumably, informants inside and outside the country, and also the efforts of Western intelligence agencies. I mean, so to a certain degree, because it's not able to be forthright, let's say, and cite exactly from where these sources came from, it does add some questions. But on the other hand, we can see that because the Iranians have not necessarily complied with the IAEA, it really had no other option but to really attempt to base its understanding of the Iranian goals on what various Western governments have uncovered during its intelligence operations.
And I'm interested to hear from a sort of technical point of view that you perhaps can provide, I mean, rather than a diplomatic point of view, what it signifies to you that Iran has not opened up its facilities to IAEA inspectors and has not been as cooperative as it could have been.
Yes, well, I mean, it appears that obviously Iran has something to hide. Okay, so up until this time, we can see that the evidence against Iran is quite circumstantial. There is no quote-unquote smoking gun against the Iranians. But on the other hand, if we look at several different factors, on one hand, the Iranians have not complied with the IAEA and have been acting a bit coy, more or less. This indicates that they have something to hide. hide. And then if you look at the overall geopolitical environment at the moment, you can see that there's been a bit of a hardening of the Iranian position. So since 2009, there's been a more or less militarization of the Iranian government as the Revolutionary Guard has undertaken much more control and has much more responsibility for maintaining security. And then also, if we look at the downfall of many of the regional leaders, the Iranians have more or less focused on regime protection. So viewed in that context, everything appears to be pointing to that the Iranians would want to protect the regime at any and all costs. But as of yet, I mean, there really hasn't been a smoking gun. But yet it does seem as if the Iranians do have something to hide because they simply have not opened up their facilities. And also, many of the more peripheral actions of the Iranian authorities as well seem to show that they are militarizing this uranium enrichment program. So they've moved some of their facilities underground near the facility, the nuclear facility near Qom, and it's near a heavily defended military base as well. So they are preparing to protect their nuclear facilities from any perceived potential attack. But at the same time, there really is no evidence as of yet that states that the Iranians have, without a doubt, engaged in nuclear weapons production.
Justin Dargin, nuclear energy analyst, live from London. Thank you.